to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia, and with me today we have Brandon.
Hello.
And Nick is not in today.
Which is a shame.
The two of us. I know. It is. I really wanted to pick his brain about, hey, we didn't get to talk to him about the Nintendo Direct on the podcast yet. So I really wanted to know what his thoughts were. And then
we had a Pokemon Direct that went off recently also that we will talk about. Yeah. And he's not here for that either. What the fuck?
I know. What's his problem? I don't know.
Bruh.
But I'm sure he'll be back next week.
Maybe.
So,
or maybe he's just going to quit.
You better not. We'll come to his house.
I would probably have to do the same. Somehow.
Somewhere.
Somehow.
Anyways, we are here to talk about games and things. And we got lots to talk about. They said Pokemon. Got a bunch of new... Hey, along with their Pokemon Direct, they announced a bunch of Pokemon things. So we can talk about those. You've been playing Eldin Ring. Been super busy with that.
I have.
That's really like the big stuff we're going to be talking about.
What have you been doing, though, Mike?
Pokemon, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I have a lot to talk about Pokemon beyond.
Oh, go for it.
So, so I think I talked about it the last time we talked about what we've been playing, but I finished up the big stuff of Pokemon Legends Arceus. So I was like, well, what can I do now? Because I was done with it, but I really didn't want to, like, I'm not off my Pokemon high yet. So I had the horrible idea of trying to, like, fill out my Pokedex even more, like the one at home. Because I already have all the different Pokemon. Like, I have one of each one. So I was like, so my Pokedex is complete. But there are the different forms. So I was like, well, I could go back through and get, like, not like the shinies, not like those kind of forms, but more like how there are, like, different, like, unknowns, like the different letters. I already went through and collected them. Can't transfer them into home yet because they're on either Arceus or Brilliant Diamond.
Okay.
So, like, but, like, those kind of things, like, there's Pokemon like Flabébé, where it's like there's like 5 different colors. So I went through and I went through and did some of those. And one of the things that actually took me the most time was I realized that I needed a 4th form of Deoxys. So I actually ended up playing the entirety of Alpha Sapphire again to catch another Deoxys. Yeah. So that was a big chunk of my time. Oh, and I played Sword and Shield, but I'll talk about Alpha Sapphire again fast. Just because, like, we haven't talked about it in a while. And I do have to say, like, I like it a bit more than I remember liking it last time.
Okay.
Which is good. Although it's still my least favorite region in Pokemon.
Too much water?
That is actually the reason. I'm not even joking. Like, that is the actual reason why. I like the water sections in any of the Pokemon are, like, my least favorite thing. Like, I don't like swimming around in the water. I don't like the random Pokemon battles. Like, it's just... And the trainers are just obnoxiously placed in the water. So I don't like it. So that's just my big complaint with it. Not that it necessarily makes it that bad.
Would you give it a 7.8 out of 10?
No, I mean, I'm not like that vision. Like, I mean, like, it's one of those games, like, especially with this one, like, that's like part of it going into it. Like, there's that huge water section there. It's a big, like, part of that game.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
So it's like, if you don't like the water stuff, then don't fucking play this game. Play one that doesn't have a ton of water. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this one just has, like, a giant, massive root that's on the water.
Pokemon Aqua Sapphire and...
Yeah, and, like, it just, that section sucks. And I got masterfully good at, like, dodging trainers in this one. Like, because this one, I really wasn't playing to, like... My only goal with playing it this time was to catch Deoxys. So I didn't fuck around catching a lot of Pokemon. I had 5. I beat the entire game with 5 Pokemon. So I just...
Very nice.
It was basically like my starter was just maxed out. I caught a few like support Pokemon, and that was it. Like, I leveled up a core team and just battled
just
through Elite 4, got to Deoxys, tossed a Master Ball, fucking done. Like, that was my, like, time with that. So it was not like super like intensive, like, oh, I gotta go fill up my Pokedex and do all the contests. Like, no.
You were just like, oh, I gotta go get Deoxys. That is it.
Yeah, just this is Mission Deoxys done.
It's like mission failed. We'll get him next time.
Yeah, so it's like interesting enough. I ended up with another Eon ticket. So because the Eon ticket was like one of the what are they called? I'm having a brain fart. The mystery gift, where you could go to the island and get the opposite, like Latios or Latias or whatever, like you had for that game. But apparently, like after you got it the first time, you could spread it by Street Pass. And since I had just erased my game and started a new one, I had the Street Pass just queued up, and there was just one sitting in there. And I was like, "Oh,
random. I guess I'll take that."
I guess I'm going to catch Latios then. Like whatever. Okay. So
where is this journey going to end? When will this journey end for
like the Pokemon?
You and playing every single Pokemon game and then going into Pokemon Home and then going into Pokemon Bank and then doing this, that, and the other. Like what is the be all end all goal?
So I'm like there right now. Pretty much. Kind of. Mostly. So I went through and I got Deoxys because I needed that last form of that. So that's there. And then I went through and I went through Sword and Shield again because I needed something from that. I think it was Gigantamax Pokemon is what I was going through and doing. Yeah, that was a lot of it. Like Gigantamax Pokemon. So I went through and I got those. And that was a bit more grindy. But like, so here's a fun story. Like if you have the DLC for Sword and Shield, you can you can go catch. I beat Sword and Shield with a team full of legendaries.
Oh god!
Before I even got to the first gym, like I got
nice.
Like, not like skipping it, but you can go to the Crown Tundra has the Dynamax adventures. I think I talked about them in a previous podcast, but it lets you go on like these basically like these raids where you can catch like legendary Pokemon from old games. So there's a couple key features with this. It's not like level locked, so you can just go there as soon as those expansion pass like items open up to you, which is before the first gym. I believe it's once you get to the big town, like the first big town through the wild area, I think is when they open up and you can go there. So once you go there, you can go into the Gigantamax or the Dynamax adventures and you can go catch legendary Pokemon from the first 7 games. So like Mewtwo and like the legendary birds are there, you know all those things. They're all there. So you go and catch them and they're level 65. You don't use your Pokemon to go through it. They give you a loner Pokemon, so you're not really like restricted by the level of the Pokemon going into it. So it's not like you can be like, I went there probably with like a level 5 or less than 10 at least starter Pokemon from Pokemon Sword. So I got there and I started catching legendaries. And the other big thing is like they're like guaranteed catch once you like defeat them in the battle. So you could throw a shitty ass Pokeball and Mewtwo is gonna climb right in it like no problem. So within a matter of like an hour, I had 6 legendary Pokemon from different games, and I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just gonna like level the rest of these gyms. So you're like the first grass gym with like all those sheep, and you're just like, all right, Articuno, come out and like level these fucking grass Pokemon. Like I did not Dynamax a single Pokemon because I just destroyed them because of like the level advantage. So I just got through them and finished it, and then just got the rest of the shit that I wanted from that game and was done with it. So at this point, to answer your like initial question, I'm with Home. I have all the Pokemon that I can get from these games that are available through normal gameplay at this point.
Okay.
I'm just missing a handful of like event exclusive Pokemon.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, like the Pikachu hat things, which were so dumb to me when they did them last time. I didn't actually the last 2 times I didn't do them. So like I don't have any of the Pikachus and the hats. But they seem to they've done them like 3 times. So I'm not like, oh no, we're never gonna get them again. Like,
so you're just like, they'll come back, whatever, fuck it.
Yeah. One of them's another form of like a legendary Pokemon. It's Hoopa. And my only issue with it is like Hoopa just can't go into the normal games right now. So once he can go into the normal games, that it can change his form again. Okay. That one's done. And the last one is the Vivillons, like those butterflies. I don't know if you remember the shit ton of butterflies that they had in Pokemon X, where each region had like their own.
Oh, I do remember that.
And there was 2 forms of it. Like, trading for those was a pain in the ass to begin with, because I did it kind of smart. I just went through and farmed a bunch of them on Pokemon X, transferred them to Pokemon Home, and then just put them up on the trading thing, and then just traded for all the different forms that I needed. Some of them were a bit rarer than other ones, so then sometimes I would just trade the villain that I had, for slightly more rare Pokemon, so that I could have a better leverage for the slightly more rare villains. So like it was just kind of like a trading chain, but it worked. So but there's two forms.
What made those so rare?
It just like certain regions, just I don't think a lot of people had them. Like, like what was it? I think like Savannah and like River. Like there's just certain ones that were just not big regions. Like if you want ones like Japan was like the elegant one, and like those are pretty common. Like in the U.S. we had I think 4 or 5 different forms. Those ones are pretty common, but it's like the ones that were just like, hey, like the bottom half of Africa or whatever. Like, yeah, there's not a lot of people have those ones, so that's just kind of part of the reason. I mean, obviously you can like spoof your DS region to do it, but like you have to do it from when you create your save file. So it's not like if I want to go and do it myself, I would have to.
I was literally gonna say, couldn't you just change your region?
So there's two things. You have to do it when you start your save file. So I would have to do a complete wipe, change my DS region, and then start a new file.
Okay.
Not impossible, but the other thing is though, apparently, and I didn't know this until I went to like look into it a little bit more, because it was an idea that I considered. I was like, that's got to be easier. But apparently, like not all 3DS regions are available on all 3DSs because of the region locking. Like
that's
so,
weird.
supposedly,
So
supposedly, like I couldn't set my 3DS to like Oceania regions because it was a North America 3DS. So it's like it could only be like North or South America, I believe. But I couldn't do like Japan or like Australia or something. So like I wouldn't be able to get those ones on my own. I would still have to trade for them anyways. And honestly, as it turns out, just getting a bunch of my own variant it was more than enough selling power to get the other ones that I needed. So it ended up not being that bad. But there's 2 that they gave out that were only during like distribution events. There's a Pokeball form, and there's like I think it's called like Fancy form.
Okay.
And those ones are just given out through like a mystery gift. So those ones I don't have right now. I imagine that they'll probably come back again once those Pokemon are again in a Pokemon game on the Switch. But there's currently no Pokemon game that supports that Pokemon on the Switch. So
interesting.
It's just one of those. Like, yeah, there's a couple like that where it's just like there's just the only way to get them is the 3DS games. Like, yeah. So there's that. And then
have you seen have you seen how expensive 3DSs have been lately? And the games for them? They've gone through the roof.
Is it because of 3DS shop shutting down?
No, this was before the 3DS shop announcement. Like my brother sold his for $189, I think.
Oh, that's really nice.
So like people are paying that price. And yeah, that was that price that he sold his for, that was to GameStop. Online, people are paying like $250 for 3DSs. It's insane.
That's pretty wild. I mean, it's a really good system. So I mean, I can't blame them. But that is something else we should talk about in news too. The 3DS eShop and Wii U Switch shop shutting down. But yeah, so it's just getting those different forms. At this point, I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I'm like desperate enough to go onto Reddit and be like, does anyone want to trade me their Zarude for this shiny Celebi that I have? I don't know.
It's probably pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I don't think it's terrible. I'm just not quite there yet mentally. I'm sure I probably will at some point because, as you've noticed over the last 12 months,
you have a little bit of a addiction to Pokemon currently.
Yeah,
is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, pretty much, and it just keeps on like slowly expanding. Where I'm
just gonna do this. I'm just gonna do this, and then you're like, actually, ridiculous thing, I'm gonna do it instead.
Yeah, and that just seems to keep on happening. Like over.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and I'm kind of like, yo, bro, do you need help?
I mean, at this point, I've like done everything that I can do. Like, there's nothing more that I can do on my own except for this trading thing. So I'm just like,
next week I'm going to hear you broke into like the fucking Pokemon distribution center just so you could get all the mystery gifts off their servers directly. It's going to be a news story.
Yeah. So
Clash of Club Penguin breaks into a
Clash of Club Penguin.
Yeah.
What? Fuck you, Brandon.
You know the news outlet would say some stupid shit like that. Come on, I had to make it sound realistic.
I know they would. Although, just random side note, not about that. But I will say, anyone who bitches about Arceus's graphics and like how shitty they are, they should boot up Pokemon Sword and go into a wild area on a bicycle and try not to get into a random battle.
It's awful. It looks so bad. Sword and Shield looks way worse than Arceus.
Way worse. And like the Pokemon, like the pop-up is literally right in front of you. They're just like, you'll just be cruising along and they'll be like, Pokemon in front, like unmissable, and you're just like, fuck. I'm like, I don't want to go into a battle. I'm trying to like avoid them, but you can't see them. They're just.
I got a hot take on that as well.
What's that?
When we get to news, I'll share my hot take.
Okay.
Okay, you know what? I'll just give you a little preview right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the new Pokemon games look worse than Arceus. The ones that aren't out yet, the ones that were previewed in the Direct, I think they look worse than Arceus.
Okay, hold that thought, because we need to talk about that later. So, there's some. I have some thoughts on the new games, but there's a lot to like unpack there. And I don't want to go right into the Pokemon Presents yet.
Obviously, because we got to talk about my my addiction.
Yeah. So I mean that's the big Pokemon stuff. I mean I played Legends Arceus, but I'll save like my talk for that when we talk about the Pokemon Presents, because that's what it ties into.
Okay.
So there is that. I mean we could hypothetically.
Yeah.
Did you play like the Wii or the Switch Sports thing?
I did not. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
It was Wii Sports.
Was it good?
I liked it.
Like, did it run well?
Yeah, I didn't have any issues. I saw online some people were saying they're having like online connection issues. Nothing. Like it worked great. Like spotless.
I see. Nice.
So, and it played exactly like Wii Sports. Like I don't really have like anything. So like it was seamless. It ran really nicely. I didn't notice any lag.
Nice.
And yeah, like I just if you like Switch, like if you like the Wii Sports stuff, like you'll like it. And, like
that's awesome.
It ran really well. Yeah. And like some of the like the bowling elimination like mode things is kind of wild. Like I like it. It's a neat idea. The only thing that sucks though is if you're gonna split, you're fucked. Like you're instantly out because everyone's getting strikes except for you. So like it's just like everyone's either strike or spare, and if you're gonna split, you're done. It's like you can't come back. You're just instantly out. So, yeah, no, it looked really nice. It worked really nice. I'm really excited to play it when it is playable. So
that's what August,
April.
June? April. That's way closer than I thought it was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's April, right? I think you made me double check myself. I'm pretty sure it's April.
April 29th.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not crazy. Yeah, but it's like yeah, because that comes out in April, but then like the soccer like foot thing doesn't come out in the summer, and then golf doesn't come out until the fall. So I saw someone had.
I might wait to get it until golf shows up. I don't know.
Someone had a really hot take on it, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like they're like, well, why wouldn't they just delay it until golf is ready? Because like there's a lot of people who will be like, golf is like the big thing. Like, why isn't this in here? And they're just like, it's because they can keep the communication open about it, especially going into holidays. So
I think it also is because, much like we talked about earlier before the podcast, with Netflix releasing things in chunks, it might be a way to further expand the game after its initial launch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking the other thing I was thinking about too, like this game.
Yeah.
And I would almost put money on this because I'm pretty confident, but I guarantee you that this game is going to have stuff for the Nintendo expansion pack.
Oh, absolutely.
Like new sports will be like, hey, you want to play XYZ? Like it's Nintendo expansion pack. Like that's what it is. Like this is a perfect example of like a game that like you can, if you don't have the expansion pack, it's not going to fuck you up. Like it's just like, here it is. You have the expansion pack. You have access to these sports. Like you're done. Like that's all you need. And if you don't have it, then I mean you can buy them or whatever. But You know what I mean? It's not like it's something that you wouldn't be able to like if you dropped your subscription or something. Like it wouldn't be hard to
Oh
like
yeah.
have it as like an add-on kind of thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think it will be a really solid game. I'm really excited to see what else they end up putting into it. Like if you
Hmm.
look at like the overworld map for like the area that they've shown in like the trailers, like it looks like there's like a baseball arena. Um, there was something else that was in there too that people were like speculating on, but it seemed like it was definitely open for more than just like the six sports that are in there.
Oh yeah.
Like it's and if you think about it too, like that's a really like a sports thing like this, it's really easy to just build on it. Like, hey, here's another sport for you. We're just gonna throw this into the expansion pack.
Hmm.
Here you go. And that was kind of the model that they had for the Wii U one too. So, whereas remember you bought each of the sports like individually.
I don't remember that.
I know because nobody cared about it on the Wii U. But yeah, like they did it. They're like, hey, you got like the base like game. And I think they
Hmm.
gave away like some like trial time. It was so long ago, I don't even remember. But I think they gave you like some trial like demo time, like when you downloaded like it initially. But
Hmm.
then it's like if you wanted any of the other games, like you had to like buy them outright in there, like the sports. Like it wasn't just like a whole package for like
Hmm.
$60. Yeah,
I don't remember this, but also,
yeah. They did have a retail one, which I think did have all of them, but
okay.
like the downloadable one did not. Uh, but yeah, that's all I got to talk about.
All right.
If you want to talk about your new obsession,
Yes. All right. So let's play a game. All right. All
okay.
right. Don't. I want you to make an actual guess, not like a bullshit, wild, crazy. You could travel through time guess. How
Elden
many
Ring.
hours do you think I have in Elden Ring?
When did it come out?
Friday,
Friday, and today's Tuesday.
Tuesday. I have not played today, but I did play yesterday and Saturday and well Friday.
50.
Not bad. I have 43.
Oh, it's so close.
You're very close, actually.
I'm like 12 hours a day, so it's like 48, but I'm like, I'll round up to 50 because I know Brandon.
Yeah, I have 43. And you know, I think I would have more if I wasn't only playing this game while streaming. So I've only been playing this game while streaming it. So every single step of the way, people have seen me go through hell and back in this game. So there's that. Um, Let me just go ahead and say this. For as awful as Far Cry 6's open world was, and as much as I complain that I really can't stand open world games, and I think all of them are absolute trash. I'm very sorry, Elden Ring. I take it all back. This game is so fucking good. This is an open world game, by the way.
That was not the direction I thought you were going to take it. I thought you were going to be like, this game makes that Far Cry 6
No,
fantastic.
no. I'm so sick of I complained. I said I'm so sick of open world games. They never do anything interesting. I'm just tired of all the bullshit because it's just the same old thing again and again and again. And Elden Ring just came along and was like, "Bitch, step aside. I'll take it from here." And it did. And that's essentially what just happened. Elden Ring is not only worth every single bit of the wait. I actually think it's better than I expected it to be,
Okay.
which is absolutely amazing. This is as close to a perfect game, I think, as anything has come in like the last 10 or so years.
That's a
Easily.
pretty strong statement.
I know. I know. But I cannot, aside from the very obvious elephant in the room, find a single issue with this game whatsoever. And the very obvious elephant in the room is performance on console, on PC, on pretty much anything. It's a little shaky in places. It can't
Mhm.
maintain the 60 FPS even on the 60 FPS mode on PS5 and on PC. Well, I didn't buy it on PC because it's that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had mixed reviews for like the first 2 days on PC because the performance was so bad. So there's that. However, this is the first game in a very long time. See, I know we make the meme about No Man's Sky and me buying it so many times and everything. This is the first game that I've played in a very long time that is so good.
Mhm.
I kind of just want to give them more money, but I don't have any way to do so. There's no expansion pass, there's no DLC, there's nothing. It's just here is a fucking 100 to 150 hour long game. There you go. You paid your $60. There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy shit, how did you create a game that has good storyline? Because there's actually a storyline, which is another first for FromSoft games. They hide their storylines. They hide them so incredibly well. But here it's just kind of front and center, more or less. Yeah, you can actually find the storyline by just playing the damn game, which is impressive. And it's a very weird FromSoft kind of storyline. And it's complicated and I really don't want to get into it because it's still overly complicated to the point where I don't fully understand it. But yeah, it is there. And if you follow along with it, you can be like, damn, this is awesome. And I wish I knew all the terminology and everything right off the top of my head to tell you what the storyline is, but I don't. So I'm not going to even attempt. But I will tell you, there is actually a story here, and it is actually very good. This is the kind of game where I think even people that don't like Souls games should play this game. And I know that's insane to say because of how difficult Souls-like games are and yada yada. How let's say unaccessible they are to the general public. That sort of deal. You know
That's
what I'm
a fair
saying?
word.
But I think this game handled it so incredibly well without outright putting an easy mode into it. And the reason for that is because this world is so big and so expansive and just so massive overall, there's nothing stopping you from going anywhere. If you think you can defeat something that you run into that's a boss and you have the skills to do it, you can do it. Otherwise, you can go farm trash mobs and you can kill them and you can explore the world and you can find little grace cubes everywhere and smash those and get yourself some runes and this, that, and the other because it's called runes in this instead of souls. And you can do that just by exploring. And you can build your character and you can get stronger and then you can come back and actually fight that boss that was kicking your ass. Whereas in Souls games, a lot of it is very linear. It's very straightforward. That is the path you take. And if you can't get good, you can get fucked, kiddo. I feel like in this game, due to the open world nature, there's so many different places you can go and there's so many different things you can do at any given moment in time that there is nothing stopping you from just treating this like a normal open world game and being like, I don't want to approach that boss right now. I'm going to come back for it later. And then you can go off to fuck knows whereville and find a whole bunch of different things over there. You can find new weapons, new gear, and all this other stuff, which allows you to then tackle that boss that you couldn't beat before. And it's rewards you for exploring the map. And it's not a case of like, FromSoft was like, all right, it's our first open world game. Let's just do what everyone else does, where it's like, all right, let's go to radio towers. Let's do this. Let's do that. They found their own special way of handling this. So, like, there's Fog of War, much like any open world game, where, like, you don't have sites for the world on the big world map. You don't really know where you're going, this, that, and the other. You're just kind of exploring at your own pace without knowing what's going to be around any corner. But you can also follow like little trails and you can find little clues and then you can find maps. And once you find maps, it unveils the actual part of the world that you're in now. And once you're able to find those maps, then you're able to like see the whole map area of the part of the continent that you're in. And then you're able to like get a better idea of, I want to go see what this is about. And it's a lot better way of doing it than something like your Ubisoft open worlds or whatever, where it's just like, all right, go climb this thing and then flip a switch and then there you go. Because it, again, rewards your exploration. Because there is nothing in this game that is like, yo, there's a map over there. You should go get it. Nothing tells you that. You just kind of find it when you're exploring. There's a general idea of where these maps are always going to be, which are always going to be by these specific gravestones that are like memorials. But other than that, the map is so big, the world is so massive that like you could be searching for hours, and I did, for a very specific gravestone that has the map at it that you need to unveil that area of the world. And during that exploration and those moments of trying to find the pieces of things to unveil the overall map of the game, you'll be running into all these other things. Like, oh, I accidentally found a really weird dungeon and I went inside of it. And there's like weird gargoyles that look like they're part of the wall. And oh, they've dropped down on top of me and they've slashed me. And now I'm bleeding and I'm bleeding out and I'm dead. Fuck. And it's things like that where you're just like, okay, well, that was weird. I wasn't expecting that. But then you go back in, much like I was talking about before with like Castlevania, that sort of deal, where it's like you learn from seeing what the game has to offer you, and you don't really lose your souls if you go back, your runes if you go back and touch where you died at. So there's nothing stopping you from just immediately bum rushing, getting back there, grabbing your runes, and just running away. There's all these fast travel points everywhere along the map, which are sites of grace, which are essentially the bonfire of this game. And when you sit down at them, you can level yourself up, and as you level yourself up more, you can make different builds for your character and change the way you play the game and make the game easier for yourself, or you could use different items and make the game easier for yourself, or you can make the game harder by just not doing any of that and just playing it like it actually is a Dark Souls game.
Uh-huh.
So it's got the workings of a Dark Souls game, but I think it has the accessibility in this game specifically enough so that like you get the idea of like Dark Souls and this, that, and the other, and you get the difficulty of it. But there's so many different options for you to choose from and places for you to go. Even if like you ran into a boss that you just cannot beat, you can always just fast travel somewhere else and then start exploring another part of the map and come back later. Like, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. You're not locked in to an area specifically because you chose to go to that boss. You could always just be like, I'm just gonna fuck off and go somewhere else, and you could just do that. For last night, I could not beat this one boss. It was kept kicking my ass, and I was like, I want to change my way of taking this on. And there's a katana that I got earlier in the game that inflicts bleeding, where if you hit a person consecutively enough times, they'll start bleeding out, which does a whole lot of damage at one point at once. So like, even if you're only hitting for like 20, 50, or 100, if you hit 20, 50, 100 6 times in a row, then bam, there goes a whole bunch of their health because they start bleeding out. So like, I was like, I want to level up this katana. So what I did was I decided to go to another part of the map, kill some trash mobs, get some runes. After I got those runes, I went back to the nearest like site of grace or bonfire, and then I went to a smithy and I got my sword upgraded, and then I was like, okay, now I do more damage with this sword because I've upgraded it. And I went somewhere else and I didn't have to fight that boss, and now that it's upgraded, I'm going to come back and I'm going to fight that boss. And it took about 4 tries because, yeah, the game's still hard, but it was much more doable because I went and did that. So whereas I'd been smashing my head into a wall for like several hours trying to beat the boss a different way, I was like, let me just try a different approach. And then I went and made that conscious decision to try a different approach, and it worked because I had that option. I had the ability to do that because the game makes it so you can make those decisions. Because of those options, I think this is the most accessible game that these games have ever been. And the world's so interesting, and like the amount of armor you can find and the way like the areas look and whatnot, and just the sense of exploration is here so much so that it really does feel like, and again, I'm going to apologize to something else and put my foot in my mouth. You know how I said I'm so sick and tired of games like Breath of the Wild? I'm so sorry I said that, because them making this game like that made it such a better experience by doing so. If someone were to take a game like this, or a game like, I don't know, some kind of first-person shooter or something, and make it like Breath of the Wild, like do their own little spin on it, but give you like that ability to explore to your heart's content, give you the ability to do this, that, and the other, but not necessarily just be like, all right, I've added all the Breath of the Wild staples, where it's like, all right, this is that area, go to this dungeon, go to that dungeon, do this thing, do that thing, flip this switch, do that thing. It's all that stuff that I just really get annoyed of when it comes to Breath of the Wild. The whole, oh, now you have a glider, glide around, do this, that, and the other. It's made traversal much more, and exploration much more trivial now. And it's true. That is absolutely a thing that happens in Breath of the Wild. In that game, the exploration becomes a lot more trivial the further you go into that game. And I feel like this does things in such a really neat and interesting way. It has a horse mount, but the horse mount is also part of combat, and you can also be attacked while you're on your horse mount. So, like, again, it puts that little Dark Souls, puts that little FromSoft spin on every single thing in this game, but it takes ideas from open world games like Breath of the Wild, where everything's super open-ended and you can just go anywhere. I have fought a ton of bosses in this game, and I found out how many bosses are just randomly in the world in this game. Not counting the main bosses you have to beat in this game, like the ones you have to beat to like progress the main story. How many bosses do you think are in this game?
30?
There's 72.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, there are 72, and these are just randomly out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, what the fuck? It's insane, because like I went off to just this nowhere land. I was just exploring, and then a fucking gargoyle came out of nowhere, out of the sky, and like started attacking me, and I was like, excuse me, I was just exploring. What the fuck are you doing here? Or like at the very beginning of the game, you like go to this lake area after you pass like the first little encampment of soldiers, and this is your first introduction to how bosses just show up out in the open world wild areas and not specifically in dungeons and this, that, and the other. And you're running along the water and you're just chilling, and then you hear a dragon screech, and then a fucking dragon just comes down from the sky and starts burning everything around you, and you're like, oh shit, that's a dragon. And then a boss bar appears at the bottom of your screen, and you're like, oh shit, this is a boss fight. And it's like, okay, well, now I guess I have to fight this boss. But that's the fucking beautiful thing about this game. That's what makes this game so accessible and so good, in my opinion, is you see that boss bar. In a lot of games, once you see that boss bar, whoosh, fog of war, whoosh, you're stuck in here, whoosh, you can't do anything. You now are locked into this boss fight. I could just turn around and fuck off. And it doesn't do anything. And I can just come back later. That is an option. And because of that option, this game has just been such a better experience than any of their past games. And than any open world game, in my opinion. Because a lot of the times when you run into a boss, you're locked into that arena. You're locked into doing this, that, and the other. And I mean, in several games, you can just straight up soft lock yourself. I'm looking at you, Wolfenstein Youngblood. And that's not a thing here. If you're going to get into a boss fight where you're locked in an arena, there's a very clear indication that that's coming up. But if you're out in the open world and you get in a boss fight, you could just summon your horse and leave. You don't have to fight that boss. It is up to you what you do and when you do it. And that is such a good fucking philosophy that I'm just impressed with how well it works. Like, this is seriously a near perfect game. I have no complaints about it, aside from the fact that there is performance issues, and that's why it's near perfect and not just straight up perfect. This is probably a game that people will be talking about for years to come. You know, how a lot of people are like, Bloodborne was such a good fucking game on PlayStation 4, and it's so good, and people always talk about Bloodborne, and people are like, where's Bloodborne 2? We want Bloodborne 2, blah, 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 blah. This is one of those games that's like, it's so good that even outside of the Souls, like, world, ecosystem, community, that sort of thing, I will still probably be hearing people talking about this game 5 years later. This is like so fucking good, and I think it will be so iconic in the long run that this is going to be, I hope it doesn't get released as many times, but this will be like the Skyrim of this generation. It's that fucking good. it is legitimately that good. I have because like you think about Skyrim and like when you first played it, you're like, all right, this is a perfect open world game. This is great. That's what you were thinking when you first played it, obviously. That's what a lot of people were thinking. And a lot of people still play Skyrim to this very fucking day.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
this game is the kind of game that I'm probably gonna look back on like 5 years from now and people will still be talking about this game. Because it's just that good. I don't want to spoil all this stuff, but I will share a few other things. Just random little happenstances. I went to 2 different forts and I got 2 pieces of a medallion and I found an elevator and I combined the medallion together and it took me up a elevator that just kept going up and up and up and up and up and essentially into the sky. And then I ended up at this place that was like a fucking like Valhalla like place, not really, but kind of. And I was like, that's super neat. And I was out earlier in the game, I was out in a forest and I found another elevator and I pulled a lever on the elevator and then I went down. And I swear, it was like a 5-minute elevator ride that just like built up the atmosphere as you went down that elevator. And eventually you came out the bottom of the elevator where you were no longer cramped in like the elevator, like little space. And when you did, you like looked up and there was like a skybox and you were like at the core of the earth. But then like you realize there's another world inside the earth or inside the world that you were just on top of, which taught me that this game is not just the top half of the game. There's an inside the core of this world, and then there's a top. There's like a higher than top half than what I've already seen. So like there are 3 distinct layers of the actual open world, and it's something that you don't really know until you know. And that kind of shit and seeing that was just so cool that I was like, this opens up so much more content. Like, I already felt like I had gone through so much. I've been playing this for like 42 hours. And then I just look at this and I'm like, why am I in the core of this world now? What is going on? How did I get here? And then you like start thinking of the logistics of it and you're like, I went down an elevator, which essentially took me to a whole nother world, and it has its own skybox. So is there like another world crammed inside this world? And it's just so fucking cool. And like all of it's just so interesting, and the lore and the atmosphere, it's just awesome. Like it is the kind of thing that will definitely be something that people talk about for years to come because of just how well made this is, because of just how well designed this is, and because of just how incredible this is to play. I really can't stress enough, like, I can't find anything wrong with this game.
That's
It's really,
impressive.
really good. We waited, I think, 5 years for this. And this was worth that wait and then some. So there's that.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm honestly just blown away by how good it is. I'm sitting here and I'm talking with you right now, and I'm like thinking to myself, there's that one part of the map that I didn't fully explore. Maybe there's something over there. I wonder what that's hiding over there, you know? And I'm like literally thinking about that right now. And I'm also thinking about like, well, maybe I could do this and respec my character, and then I could have this kind of build, which would allow me to use these kind of weapons. And that is literally what I'm thinking about while speaking to you right now. It's that kind of game that like sticks with you even after you've turned it off. So, yeah.
So you're gonna be playing this for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
I have Horizon Forbidden West also. I haven't even turned it on. And then like Ghostwire Tokyo comes out in a few weeks, and I'm so excited for that game, and I really want to play it. But at the same time, I'm like, I just want to explore more of Eldin Ring.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's great when you get sucked into a game like that.
And there's just so much content, and like, it's a $60 price tag. And there's so much fucking content. And there's no DLC in sight. And there's no expansion pass in sight. And there's no season pass in sight. And there's no buy these cosmetics. It's all in the game. So even from like a monetization standpoint, I can't make a complaint because there is nothing to complain about.
They better watch your mouth because they're going to listen to you and they'll be like, oh, Brandon wants NFTs?
Oh, no.
Oh, we will get him.
I will actually cry. I don't want NFTs, but if you guys do want to make DLC for this fantastic fucking game, that's totally fine. If you guys do want to make an expansion pass, that is totally fucking fine. I think with a game that has this much content, it earns the ability to have a season pass. There's so many games that are like, all right, here's like 4 hour game, and we'll be making the rest later. Enjoy your season pass, bitch, that you paid $80 for. And it's just like, gee, thanks, guys. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. But like this one has so much stuff already crammed into it. And like I'm only playing one class right now. I chose a single class. I think there's don't let me there's 10 classes. I'm playing one of them.
Yeah, so you can go through them, you know.
Oh, I trust me, I am. There's a class called the Wretch, and it just starts with a torch, and that is it.
Oh, wow.
You're naked, and you start with a torch. So I'm guessing that's the class where it's like, yeah, get fucked.
What more do you need?
A naked torchbearer. But yeah, just in general, I'm very impressed with everything this game has to offer. And like I keep looking up things because sometimes I see people with stuff like in pictures or whatever, and I'm like, where the fuck is that? And then I see something, and I'm like, where do I get that item? And then it's like in a place I've already been to, and I extensively looked over, but they found like a tiny little path off to the side, and it's like, yeah, that's where you get this item. And I'm like, what? And then like sometimes I've seen things where it's like, all right, yeah, you know that cave that had nothing in it? Yeah, go punch this wall, and it reveals that the wall is fake. And I'm like, okay, so illusionary walls are in this. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And it's like, and then there's a bunch of treasure chests. But if you punch the wall behind the treasure chest, that one's also fake. And I'm just like, what the fuck? It's like, it just keeps going.
I did hear there's already lots of like fake messages, though.
Yes, there's some really good ones, too.
The one message I saw was more of like a complaint. It was like, it was really nice when you're playing like the older Dark Souls games, and like there was all these messages like trying to help you out, and occasionally there'd be like troll ones, but now it's like, it's the opposite now. It's like
there would always be troll comments when I played Dark Souls. Like so on a whim, I don't think I've ever shared the story on the podcast, but I actually own the special edition of the original Dark Souls from Xbox 360. I didn't know what it was when I bought it, and it was day one release that I bought it. I had no idea what I was buying, but I bought it because I literally looked at it and I was like, well, that looks like Castlevania, doesn't it? Konami's not going to give me a Castlevania. Maybe these people will. So I bought it because of that. Quite literally, because of that. So I still have like the steel book and the special like art book and all that stuff somewhere around the house. And it's super neat, super cool. And like I played that game, and obviously it kicked my ass, and I never actually beat it because, well, at the time I never beat it because I was just like, yeah, this is really difficult. Why would anyone like this? But then, like, as time went on, I played more and I understood more and that sort of thing. But when I played that game initially, and when I played Demon Souls initially, which was before that, on PlayStation 3, back when I used to rent games from Blockbuster, I never saw any messages in those games that weren't troll messages. So I'm actually very confused right now when you're saying like, oh yeah, there's way more troll messages now than there used to be then. I'm like, bro, every message was a troll message back when I played those games.
To base it on just what someone was saying that I read. They're just like, it just seems like it's, according to them, they felt like it was the opposite. Like there would be troll messages, but they were saying like a lot of the messages were not troll messages.
Right. So I distinctly remember playing Dark Souls for the first time, and after I got out of the starting area and started exploring, I remember a message that said treasure chest ahead or something like that. Try rolling. And so I did, and I instantly fell to my death. There's nothing there. That's something that always sticks in my head. Always sticks in my head. Because I remember that specifically, and I was just like, that's the kind of game I'm getting into. Okay, yeah, let's go. But yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, I can't give Eldin Ring a high enough praise. Let's just go ahead and cut the bullshit now. This is Game of the Year. There's nothing I can't see anything topping this because of how incredibly good it is. And if something does top this, I will be incredibly surprised, and I will probably say this is one of the best years for gaming, period.
I mean, it's
If something
already
can
set up
top
to be a
this.
really great year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Pokemon Arceus was great. We both like loved
Yeah,
that when
it was
that
a
came
great
out.
game.
You know, Elden
Absolutely.
Ring, obviously, like you're really getting into. I've heard good things about the other game you spoke of.
Horizon, Forbidden
Yeah,
West. Yeah, I've
that's the
heard
one.
good things about that as well.
And then like Nintendo's has a ton of stuff that's already like on the
Yeah, they
book
got
for
the
this
new
year.
Kirby. They got the we'll
Kirby
talk about
looks
the other
great.
thing. Yeah.
Bayonetta's coming out. That will
Bayonetta's
probably
actually
be
coming
great.
out this year. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Bayonetta's fantastic.
Breath of the
Yeah, I
Wild
guess
2
you're right.
should be coming out this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was what was Xenoblade 3. I mean,
Xenoblade
there's
3's this year. Holy shit, you're right.
yeah, like it's just this year's like
This
it's
year's
like stupid packed.
stacked. It's
Yeah.
stacked for games. Let me see
So
if there's anything else. Before we move on to the next topic, I want to see if there's anything else that stands out. Because, like, I've already said
isn't
mine.
God of
I
War
said,
coming out this year?
I don't know. I already said Ghostwire Tokyo, which I'm super excited for, as I mentioned before. I know that's more of a niche thing. That's more of a definitely me thing. But, like, I'm super excited for that game. That was actually much like every game console before, I always like look at a game and I'm like, cool, I'll buy the console for that one specifically. And then it never releases until really late in the lifespan of the game. And Ghostwire Tokyo is that game. So
Yeah, God of War is supposed to come out this year. So got that to look forward to.
true.
Oh, Splatoon 3. Didn't mention that one.
Yeah, and here we go. Notable and upcoming game releases. Gran Turismo 7 comes out in like 2 days. What?
Surprise!
I guess so. Um,
I'm sure it won't be great, but that new Sonic game is supposed to come out this year.
yeah, that's true. Oh, that's neat. Didn't know that was coming out.
Which one?
A update to Ghost Runner,
Oh.
which is a good game. Stranger in Paradise comes out March 15th. What the fuck? What? I didn't know that.
Surprise!
Yeah, I guess so. I'm gonna look over a few more things here. Evil Dead, the video game. That could be fun. Kind of
Could
hope
be.
that's good. Forspoken. I really don't think that's gonna be that great. I don't think Saints Row will be good either.
I still haven't bothered to play the new demo for Triangle Strategy.
Yeah, I haven't either. That's another one on this list.
I downloaded it though,
Uh-huh.
but I've not bothered to play it.
Let's see. Oh, Starfield's this year. What?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
I mean, there's a couple other games like that are obviously going to be big deals this year. That like, I don't like. I know they'll be good, but they're not stuff I'm be like, this is going to be like that caliber of game. To like like the Mario Strikers kind of
Oh,
thing.
that might actually be really good.
Live Alive though, which I know you were really excited about.
Oh yeah.
That game, people say like it actually might be like a huge deal. So
Let's see. I mean, it's already out. It's already a game that exists.
it's a game that exists, but it's not a game that exists for us yet. So I mean, it's a new experience.
Yeah, I mean, it came out in 1997.
Yeah,
Something like that. Stalker 2 might exist.
it could. It could.
I mean, it has a release date of December, but there's a few problems that might stop that game from making it to market. So there's that.
Oh,
You know
and
which ones I'm talking about.
and then they're obviously like we danced around it. We didn't say it, but Pokemon Violet and
Yeah.
Scarlet, those are also out this year too. Because it should be said.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things here. There's a lot of things here. Is Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope this year?
Supposed to be.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
That's another one that I'm like, I'm sure it will be good, but I don't think it's gonna be like 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 oh like this is competition for number one game of the year. Like it's based on the last one, I could definitely see it making lists. But I don't think there'll be a lot of people that will be like, this will be number one. But who knows? We know so little about the game.
Yeah. There's a lot of games coming out this year, and yeah, that's even with all the ones we named, I'm just sitting here like I don't think it's really gonna be hard for anything to top this, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this year has. And I don't even think we probably know the full
Extent.
yeah
Yeah,
of like the end of this year. Like I
you're
think we have
right.
a good idea of the first half, but like I still
I
don't think we
definitely
know the
agree.
full on the second half.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I'm super excited to see what happens. But right now, uh, Elden Ring's not just the best game I've played this year. It's probably the best one I've played in like the last 10 years, easily.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, I know you love those games too.
I do. I do love these games. They're some of my favorite genres. But like this is just an amalgamation of, is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah. Amalgamation.
Yeah, of all the best, the things that are make this like the best, and then a way to make it so people can experience it as well and just be like, okay, I get it. So yeah, there you go. That's
Yeah.
me. I'm done. I'm done gushing about Elden Ring for about like 45 minutes. There you go.
All right. Time for news.
All right.
All right. We'll start with Pokemon because we've been talking about it quite a few
Mm-hmm.
times today. But there was Pokemon Presents on Sunday
There
where they
was.
talked about a bunch of the new things coming up this year because it's Pokemon Day.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the announcements were just kind of just like little updates or just like surprise things like, oh, Hoopa's coming to Pokemon Unite, which they like that was kind of my, I don't know if you watched the Pokemon
Kind of
Present.
skimmed through it and then got to the ending because
Yeah, which
yeah.
is really all you needed to do because if you've been following along with the Pokemon Day stuff already, you
Mm-hmm.
already knew everything through the first 10 minutes because this was just them showing you in video form what
Mm-hmm.
they'd already announced, which was like, hey, there's Hoopa. Well, I guess the Pokemon Arceus, the DLC, like the Daybreak DLC, that was new, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
anything that was like, oh my god, like this is crazy. Um, but yes, they did announce like free DLC for Pokemon Arceus, which the big feature was, it introduces this new mechanic of massive mass outbreaks
Mm-hmm.
where you can go through to like the different areas and there'll be more than one massive outbreak
And that's
inside
pretty
like
neat,
one map.
honestly.
Yes. And also the other cool thing about it too is it's not just like the regular Pokemon that have been in the mass outbreaks. It's like rare ones that have
Mm-hmm.
not been. Like I went to one and there was a mass outbreak of unknowns. So
That's cool.
like yeah, so those are there. I've seen like Spirit Tombs, which are obviously another really rare Pokemon that you can theoretically in the game only catch like maybe one. But now
That's the
apparently
one
they can show
from
up
all the getting all
the
the
spirit.
little spirit
Yep.
things. Yeah, I know what you're
Mhm.
talking about.
So like those can show up in mass outbreaks, or even like the starters, like Cyndaquil and
Yeah, that's all
Oshawott.
sick. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So and on top of that, like they can even show up as so when you complete so you go there's a bunch of different mass outbreaks. You have probably like I think they said 8 minutes
Mm-hmm.
about what the YouTubers were saying to like go through and just whatever you want to do in those 8 minutes. You can just go to as many mass outbreaks as you can. But if you clear it out, you do have a chance of like a subsequent outbreak happening
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. So, like, I went and cleared out, for example, a bunch of wormholes, and as soon as the last one was gone, a shit ton of Silcoons showed up. Like,
Okay.
like the evolved form of wormhole, like the little, like pod things. So, like, you can like finish one up, and then they like the evolved forms can show up in a mass raid at the same spot,
Okay.
or you can finish them up, and then you can have a horde of alphas show up, which also had happened. And it's just like a whole bunch of alpha Pokemon all of a sudden are there. And you're
Kind
like,
of cool.
oh, okay. Then I can go and catch these Pokemon. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just something like entertaining, I guess, if you're going through and just trying to collect a shit ton of new Pokemon that
Mm-hmm.
you haven't like finished the game yet or are looking for new things. There you go. You can go through and get some new ones or some shiny ones or just some variety there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for me, like, I don't find it super exciting because I'm not going through and being like, oh, I would like all the shiny Pokemon. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
but for people who are looking for just something new to do or whatever, like it's a bunch of new content. Like they added 10 missions overall, and some of them are like all about these mass outbreaks, and some of them there's like some battle missions too. So we're
Okay.
doing stuff with like battling. So there's some trade off there where you get a bunch of new stuff depending on what you're looking for. The game was lacking battling stuff to begin with, so like the battling stuff is definitely new and exciting. But yeah, there's that. They added Shaman to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Like they put out the pokes or the Oaks letter, so you can go and catch him now. So that's there. But the real big meat and potatoes of this was they decided to unveil a new Pokemon game, and you spoke about it earlier, briefly.
Yep.
Pokemon Violet and Pokemon Scarlet.
There you go.
And this is an entirely open world Pokemon game, 100%. Not like RCS where it's broken down into like little chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they say, according to the official stuff, it is seamless transitions everywhere. There's no like stopping. So you have that. The game is set in, they said the region is based off of Spain. So you can definitely see some Barcelona influence in like the big city that they showed off. But the one thing that really stuck out to me, and it's kind of like touching on like what you were going to talk about too when we get to this, it wasn't so much graphics, but just like the more like the level design, is like it is very clear to me looking at the way that the environmental shots that they've shown, this game is not built like level design wise like Sword and Shield at all. This is built like Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
With like tiers of environment, not huge patches of like it's like everything is spread out a lot more, and it's not like densely packed. It's more like a realistic environment. And I mean I like that. Like the one thing actually going back to Sword and Shield that I really appreciated about it, and I don't remember if I said this when we were talking about Arceus before, but I talked about how like I kind of enjoyed like the limited Pokedex in Arceus because I like that it didn't, because with Sword and Shield with the like the Pokedex like mass exit, like I felt like, and maybe not at the time, but definitely in retrospect, that they really felt forced to get as many Pokemon in there as they could. So there's no like coherency. Like they're all just there. And just kind of like, here's a shit ton of Pokemon in this field. You don't know what you're gonna get. Like it's not like they're not laid out by like environments like truly. They're just kind of like there. Whereas like in Arceus, like you walk in and be like, oh yeah, you know, like the Bidoofs kind of congregate here, the Floatzels kind of congregate by the water, like the Combees are over by the trees. Like everything is kind of built around that environment, and like the Pokemon are arranged by like the environment they're in. And that's kind of what I feel like they showed with this game too. It's kind of like, oh, you know, you got these, you know, flower Pokemon that are in this flower field, and like the flying Pokemon are the kind of more like grass types with this fire field, like around this field, and then you got like the Pokemon in the city, like, you know, living on like the wires and things like that. And it's just kind of like there's more coherency there with like the world building than what they had with Sword and Shield. I will say though, at least for me, I honestly like I didn't notice as much of a graphics discrepancy between that and Legends as you did.
All right, look at this. Look at this. For instance, I have now posted into the general chat one of the images taken directly from the video and from the one that was uploaded by the official Pokemon YouTube. All right. Now this is very clearly when you look at it, open the original and then like put it in fully screen. This is very clearly when you look at it, not a compression issue from a YouTube video, because you can see the jaggies on the actual like walls. You could see all of that sort of stuff. Now, when I played Arceus, there may have been some blurry textures here, some blurry textures there, some low poly this, some low poly that, and it may have been, you know, throughout the entire gameplay session, more or less. But I felt like a lot of that stuff wasn't the stuff that was shown front and center. This is a image that I have presented to you. Speaking of the ones that were sitting on the like little clothesline, that little thing that you were talking about, you alluded to that earlier. This is an image that I'm showing to you. Granted, this is not a final image, and this was actually from a video, but if you look at that image, and if you look at it in full screen, you could see the aliasing on the wires. You could see the aliasing on the actual wall, literally right next to them, front and center, and it is bad. You can see the blur. You can see the blur on the actual Pokemon themselves, and it is really bad. It is really low resolution. You can see the actual big blobby mess that is like the courtyard middle of the town thing. It is almost undiscernible what is in the little circle that's there. And this is, again, front and center, something they were clearly showing off as being like, whoa, look at these big sweeping vistas. But they look like shit. They look really, really bad. And I'm not saying, oh, I won't play it because it looks bad. I'm just saying, legitimately, when I look at this image and I look at Legends Arceus, Arceus may have had smaller amount of things that were like out in the world and everything, but because of that, it wasn't like, oh, every single thing I look at in this image is blurry, unrecognizable, and just jaggy and ugly to look at. It was a lot of the time you would see something that was jaggy and ugly to look at in Arceus, and you'd be like, yeah, that looks pretty bad. But it wasn't like 6 buildings that all look like shit. It wasn't 4 staircases that all look like garbage. It wasn't clotheslines that were hanging everywhere that all look like absolute trash. It wasn't a big central circle in the middle of town that you can barely even recognize what the fucking thing is that's in the middle of it. I know it's a Pokeball, but it literally looks like just a big glob. And because of that, I look at this and I look at what they showed during that video, and I'm like, this looks worse than anything they put out before. This looks legitimately way worse than Arceus. This looks legitimately way worse than Sword and Shield. And I'm still going to play it, because I don't give a shit how a game looks unless it's something I'm playing on PC, where it's like, oh, I should be able to control those settings. But if it's on a console, I understand it. It doesn't bother me. But like when I look at this, and I look at this as the thing they're showing off and that they're proud of, the only thing that comes to my mind is, what are they not proud of showing off? Because this already looks like trash. So yeah, that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I think how would I put this? Honestly, I think if they were doing this in Legends Arceus, I don't think it would be too much different.
I don't think it would be either, but I think that's the difference. They didn't do this in Legends Arceus, so you didn't have like 6 different buildings with distinct looks and textures on them that were all blurry. You have like one building that was blurry and had some textures, and you're like, oh, that looks kind of shit, don't it? But here it's like, look at this big sweeping vista, and everything looks like garbage. And it's, you know what I mean?
I will say too, like, I mean, it
also, I will point this last thing out because I want to make one more point that makes me laugh. And this was one my friend pointed out to me. He's like, man, you really did complain about a lot here, even though you have a lot of points. But you didn't complain about the one thing that stands out to me. And I was like, what's that? And he goes, the Pokemon aren't even attached to the ropes they're sitting on.
They're not even attached to what?
The ropes that they're sitting on. The ropes they're perched on, they're literally not even attached to them. They're floating over the top of them. Look at the image I posted again. Look at it. They're just floating over the top of it. You see it now, and you can't unsee it.
No.
And I was like, oh shit, you're right. I can't unsee that now. And I was like, you know what this makes me think of? You know those like clip art things you used to get as a kid? Where it's like you put the clip art of the Pokemon on top of the background image? That's what this game looks like.
But you know what though? So there are some like, okay, so that picture obviously is kind of shitty. And I will say, when you're in the big sweeping vista, yeah, like there's definitely some issues there. And like you didn't even point out the fact that I think when they showed like those windmills, like one of them was
like
clearly
3
running
FPS.
One was clearly running at a different FPS than the other ones. So
no, I decided to step away from the frame rate problems because the entire video, all 3 minutes of it, probably ran at a consecutive amount of like 15 FPS the whole fucking video. So like,
I know I'm notorious for missing frame rate things. Like the frame rate, like the distant frame rate stuff, even in Arceus, like jumps out to me. Like when you see like, oh, there's a Gyarados flying in the distance, and it's like 3 frames a second. Where it's just like,
so you know why it's done that way, right? It's actually kind of interesting. So it's like back in old games such as like Crash Bandicoot, they used to just use culling, which is where like when you're not looking at an item or something on the screen, that part of the screen doesn't exist. Like if you were to take the camera behind Crash Bandicoot, it would be nothing but a dark void behind it because nothing actually exists behind where the camera is. So like whenever you're like changing into those spaces, those spaces don't exist. They get culled out. So as you're moving along the straight path in like the original Crash Bandicoot on PlayStation 1, it's desyncing and removing the area that you just ran through. Like that area gets unloaded from the actual game memory, and then that memory's freed up so that it can load the next part of the area. That's why Crash Bandicoot back in the day looked so incredibly good, because they came up with that general idea and a way to use it in that game, which made it work really well and look very nice for its time. What they're doing in Arceus and probably in this game as well is another form of that, where instead of culling out the thing entirely, because you don't want an open world game where you don't see the open world. That just doesn't work. So instead, they lower the frame rate to half or lower than half of the normal frame rate of the game, which makes it so it doesn't take up as much processing power. And for the items that you're not seeing on screen at that moment in time, or you're seeing very far away on screen, they're at a lower frame rate so that the game can run better and be better optimized for what you're seeing in your general point of view right there around you in the vicinity that you're at. So it's like, you're not going to be able to get up in the sky right now to get that Gyarados that's flying around. So there's no reason to have it running at the same frame rate as your character is. There's no reason for that. So it runs at a lower frame rate. And I'm guessing because of the, like, windmills don't really matter, and that it was like a sweeping camera shot, that sort of deal. You're not actually at those windmills, and it's probably a cutscene. So the windmills were running at a lower frame rate as it came in with the camera. And then that's when their frame rate kind of picked up, but I'm guessing because
cutscene, they should have been able to like script that out, because you didn't need to.
I'm aware, but I was going to get to that. I was going to get to that part. My assumption for that is that goes to the whole this is not the final product for at least that amount. It's probably like running on the same as like in-engine, as like if it's using the in-engine to do the cutscene. You understand what I'm saying? So like when you do cutscenes that are in-engine that clearly look different from a normal cutscene, and they look kind of shit most of the time, unless it's something really well done, such as like Horizon Zero Dawn or like God of War and this, that, and the other. On PlayStation or on Xbox or whatever, Nintendo's not really good with in-engine cutscenes, and that's even seen in games that are really good, that are really well done, such as Xenoblade. You could tell the difference of an in-engine cutscene and just a normal cutscene in something like Xenoblade, and I'm pretty sure you can agree with me there, because you've played that game to death and you probably understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And using in-engine seemed to be what they were doing to do the sweeping vistas. The game was like, wait a minute, why is the camera coming at me? Oh god, I need to go frame rate up. Why didn't I get it for the other one? Oh shit, this is still a work in progress, you know? So that's what I was assuming was going on there. But with Arceus, it's just a matter of like, you aren't going to be there at that point in time where that enemy is, where that Pokemon is, or whatever. So it lowers the resolution, as you could probably tell, because Gyarados quite literally just looks like a stick in the air when it's flying around. And then it also lowers the frame rate to free up, memory for allocating what you currently are dealing with at the time. I think it's really neat the way it's done, and the way they're able to do things like that with like lower end systems and this, that, and the other, be it on Android or the Switch or what have you. And I just think that's a really cool, like, little thing. But there's too many games that are like mainline games that are like big front and center games lately, both on Nintendo and even like some PC games or some games that run on PC engines. That's like, when that happens, it's very jarring and it's very noticeable. I could understand it for something like Nintendo, but they've done it in like Fortnite also, and when they do it in Fortnite, I'm like, this is fucking weird.
Well, you know what the thing is? It's a thing I've harped on this so many times. I think over the last year especially, but it's like, you build the game for the system that you're making it for.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, though, too, and it's, I think one of the things that was most surprising to me, like last year when I went back and played like the Pokemon, like Let's Go Pikachu, was just how good that game looked, because Game Freak fucking sucks at graphics. Like they just do. Like Sword and Shield's a mess.
Yes.
Like, and when I went back through, like when I was playing like the Pokemon on the 3DS, and I forgot about this. Like, I don't know if you remember, both those games, like it's like almost pretty much the only 3DS games that won't let you play them with 3D on. because like it's
Yeah,
just they couldn't find a way to make it work.
they couldn't make it work. They couldn't unload those assets and have the 3D working at the same time. It just doesn't work.
And even that too, like when you are in like a battle, like
The frame rate's
that
lower. It's like actually a mess.
yeah, it's horrible. And it's like you can actually like I can notice it stuttering.
Mhm.
So I'm like, it must like if I can notice the stuttering, it's bad. So like I'm like you are dealing with, especially in the battles, because you're loading like a very small area with just like a handful of Pokemon. Like you're not really doing like any terrain or anything because they take you to a different area. So it's just like you guys just did such a shit job programming this that it's just a fucking mess. So I don't know. I think my point where I'm going with this is a like yes, we should at least sit and be like, wow, this we don't know when they made this video. It's very possible it's like an earlier build and the game's not coming out until later in the year. So the graphics could look better, but at the same time, it's also Game Freak, and we've seen what the last two releases look like, and don't expect it to deviate too much.
Yeah, I don't.
What we've seen.
I don't.
But also importantly, what you said at the end of the day is the gameplay is the most important, and as long as it's not like too like strangely hindered by what they're doing,
yeah,
I'm okay with it. I just after watching this though, like it really, and especially after going back to some of the older games, I really hope that they carry over a lot of like the quality of life stuff that they had in Legends. Because you know how fucking nice it is just throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon and just walk the fuck away. Like I don't want to go into a battle and get pulled into a different screen and then have to throw a Pokeball.
You and both know that's not happening.
I don't know for sure. I'm still like cautiously optimistic that like some of the quality of life stuff, like these games obviously were developed like
you have more. What's the word I'm looking for? More faith than I do. I really feel like this is a case of like Arceus is its own thing. You want the mainline Pokemon games, the ones where that's turn-based and you do this, that, and the other, but it happens to now also be an open-world game. Here's Scarlet and Violet. You want the open-world game that's the third-person shooter, essentially? Well, here's Arceus.
But see, you know what the thing is, though? By converting it to like an open world, like, especially looking at the landscapes that they built, like, I don't think that the completely traditional method works as it is. Like, I think it's going to have, like, I don't think we're going to get, like, 100% Arceus, but I don't think we're going to get 100% Sword and Shield either. Like, they have to have somewhere in the middle just because of the way they built it. But how much so, I don't know.
If they do that, the only way I could see them doing something like having the Arceus gameplay with the throwing the Pokeball and just fucking off would be something like their version of a Safari Zone.
Maybe.
And that I think would actually work and would be a nice little nod to Arceus and also would make the game interesting in that area at least. So I think that'd be something that would shake it up a bit, and I think that would be a really good idea for something like the Safari Zone to have you playing the game in a different fashion. If they did something like that. But I do not see them committing to being like, oh, it's the Pokemon, just throw a Pokeball and fuck off. I don't fully see them doing that. I don't.
But there's some like weird things that are like you're gonna think though. Like I don't think crafting is gonna return. No. Like I think that's a hard stop. Like for this one, so is that like I said, I could see the Pokeballs returning to some degree. Like I don't think it's gonna be like I don't think they're gonna do like alphas and that kind of stuff. But it's like. But like if you think about it though too, like you see like the Pokemon just like hanging up on those, like just literally hanging on those wires. There's only one other thing about Pokemon Violet and Scarlet that I want to talk about.
Okay,
and that is the starters. What are your thoughts, Brandon?
On what?
The starters. We got Brigatito, Coco, and Quaxley.
I like all of them. I think they're pretty interesting looking starters. I can't decide which one I like the most yet. I would have to actually see some of their move sets, maybe a little bit more stuff with them other than just a painting, like their actual character models, that sort of deal, to get a general idea of which one I like more. But I'm leaning towards really liking the Applegator.
No.
Yes, I kind of love it how stupid it looks, but I love so many creatures and games that just look fucking stupid. Like that's just That's just a me thing. I
I,
love Bidoof. You know I love Bidoof. I
I know you
literally
do.
have that like fucking $60 shirt. I love Bidoof. I love stupid looking Pokemon. Very much so.
And that was my initial like impression when they unveiled them. I was like, they look so derpy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't dislike them, and I actually like. I was like, oh, these are horrible at first, and then I realized like a lot of people really like all of them. Like I think I'm in the clearly the minority on this one. I think the cat's my least favorite one. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really like it.
Um,
Um, I
I
think
don't
it's
know
the
how I feel
coloring.
about the cat. I think the cat is a little basic, not
Yeah, it's just like
bad.
I'm a green cat, and there are some like nice touches to its design. I guess like the more they look at it, it's like oh, it's got like this leaf motif, and it's cool. And like I do kind of like the apple gator more because I didn't realize that like now that I see the apple, like I'm like okay, that's actually kind of cooler. Um, so and then Quaxley, I think will evolve into those birds from Rhythm Heaven.
Uh,
Um, the
yeah,
military
I also
birds.
want to see like their evolved form. That's another thing that I think is very important.
I agree. That's maybe they'll be really cool. One person had a theory. I don't know. Like Pokemon theories are all over the place, and especially right now. But they're like this might be the first time where they actually do starters that do like they have like the reverse advantages too. So it's like like for example, your fire gator, it's like its first type is fire, but as it evolves, maybe will evolve into like a dual type fire water Pokemon. Or no, fire grass? Yes. I
Mm.
think like it's just they also evolve into the second type that they are um weak to or something. I don't remember. Something like that. And I was like, okay, I can see that. Because I mean I could see that because with the apple motif, I could see it turning into like a fire grass type, you know?
Hmm.
So I don't know, but I do agree. I kind of want to see more what their final forms look like because I feel like a lot of the starters start off looking really cool initially, and then
Yeah,
they turn into their final forms and they
by
look
their
dumb.
final form is like, yeah, this looks shit.
That was kind of last generation, like Sword and Shield. Like I feel like
Yeah,
those, like they all turned into like weird things.
yep, I agree.
Yeah. So, but that is it. That is all I actually have to talk about
Yeah,
Scarlet and
I,
Violet for right
I'm
now.
I'm kind of excited for it. I'm cautiously optimistic. I do think it looks like shit though, but I think it looks like I think you are right. I think it's the fact that if Arceus had as many details that they tried to cram into the world as Violet and Scarlet, then it would probably look the same amount of shit. But I think because of the fact that Arceus didn't, and it's much more simplistic, and this is like, let me just put all the buildings here. I think it looks worse because of that decision.
Yeah, and the other thing to think about too is like because obviously this trailer was designed to be cinematic, and clearly they
Yes.
didn't take that into effect when they made the trailer. Like,
Yes.
how many of these cinematics are we actually going to see like as we play? Like in the point where they showed
Exactly.
them in that trailer.
Exactly. That's how I feel too.
So we will see. Oh, I do really another thing I hope that they bring back from RCS. One last thing I really would like them to bring back is bring back like the methods of transportation Pokemon. Like I really,
Oh
really,
yeah.
really, really, really missed flying around when I switched to the older games. Like that was sorely missed. That was so nice.
Yep. I
Um,
agree.
and like I feel like the deer is so much better than the bicycle. Like there's just give us those options, even if it's like the creepy Sneasler to climb up mountains. That's
Yep.
fine. But yeah, it's okay. That's that for Pokemon's. Uh, Last piece of news we got: 3DS and Wii U eShop are closing.
Yeah. This one's a bit of a hot button topic. I've
Yeah,
seen a lot of people being like, Nintendo, if you're not going to support your past consoles, then maybe you should not go after the people who will.
no, I know. I can't. It is kind of like because when they get rid of these shops, like it's just like
Yes.
there's a ton of software that's just like
Gone. It's
gone
lost. It's
forever.
lost. Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, you have those kind of things. You have other things to consider too. Like obviously the Pokemon people are flipping out now because it's like, what's gonna happen when this
The
shuts down?
Pokemon. Yeah,
Because
exactly.
like how am I gonna get my old Pokemon or old Pokemon into the new games
Mhm.
because that was all transitioned through Pokemon Bank. And if I lose access to that, then I lose access to those Pokemon.
Exactly.
Pokemon did say they're making Bank free once that service goes down.
Mhm.
But at that point, how long is it going to be around for? Are they going to do anything like to substitute it? Is Nintendo going to try to get this legacy content onto their newer platforms? We don't know. We don't know any of those answers. It's very unlikely
Yeah.
that's what they're going to do. So it's just kind of like, it sucks. It sucks that it's there. And I've already, like, I went through the eShop the other day and I was like, I kind of put together like a tentative like wish list of things that I would like to buy before it shuts down.
Yeah.
But also I'm like, I don't really know if it's like, there's definitely a couple games I'm absolutely going to buy
Mhm.
because I've transitioned away from physical games on the
I'm just gonna be
3DS
honest with
stuff.
you. I understand that like things have to be shut down and this, that, and the other, and eventually because they got to make room for new shit and yada 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 blah blah blah. But they don't have to give you the option to like purchase it or this, that, and the other afterwards.
I don't understand it
I
either. I wish
feel
someone who
like
could explain it to me. I'm sure there's some like money thing there, but at the same time, it's not like they are like, how do I put this? They
well, the
integrated the
last thing I was gonna
3DS
say is
onto the
I feel
Switch.
like I wouldn't be looking to see what I could buy before the thing goes away. I feel like I'd be looking for other ways to acquire said things, unless it's something like Pokemon, for instance, like you were talking about, because you want to have that like an actual copy of that sort of thing, because of all the banning and all the duping and this, that, and the other. But
That's
other
true.
games, I would look at and be like, "Fuck you, Nintendo! Why should I pay for this if you're not going to give me the option to pay for this?" That's where I stand. That's where I stand in this sort of shit. I
It's not
don't think it's
necessarily a
right.
wrong idea. No,
I don't
and
think
I,
it's right because I think so many things get lost because of things like this.
mhm.
And a lot of people do preserve things that were never meant to be seen. Like that's the reason why over the last 3 years, I believe it was, the Legend of Zelda game that was on the online service on Super Nintendo. You heard about that, right?
I don't know what you're talking about. Fill me in.
So,
I might know, but I might not be on the same wavelength.
Japanese Legend of Zelda online service game. Uh, yeah, here it is. Over the last several years, a game called, goodness, what was it called? Okay, Satellaview. Do you know what that is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there was a game on the Satellaview that was a different Legend of Zelda than the one we got on, and then the one that Japan got, that people were able to recreate by, let's just say, preservation
Yeah.
means, that sort
Hmm.
of thing. And something like that would have been lost for all eternity. It legitimately would have been completely lost if someone didn't still have the files on a Satellaview. And I think that's like insane that things like that can just go away and no longer exist because a company is like, yeah, we don't want that to exist anymore. And that really sucks.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
So when I
But
see something like this happen, I'm like, I don't want to give you money to buy up the games before you take away my ability to do so. I feel like I'm just rewarding you for doing that.
what I don't understand too is like it's like you can't. They're like you can't add money to the eShop after May,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's you can't add like I think eShop cards after like August or something. But it's like that money is the same wallet that the Switch uses. Like I don't understand who you're trying to stop from getting stuff.
Just trying to get everyone onto the Switch ecosystem. That's like the long and short of it. They're trying to get people to drop the other older consoles and just move on, more or less.
I know.
It's what every company does. Um,
I know. We went through with this with PlayStation what last year?
yeah, and then they
Tried to
didn't
do
even
it.
go through with it.
Yeah, and it just I don't know. The way I look at it is like this stuff is just sitting on a server and just you let people give you money for it. I
Not
would be
only that,
absolutely
not only that. I'm so sorry. I interrupted you. You were saying the stuff is just sitting on a server. Not only that, but I'm gonna share a little bit of not so okay to do information with you. I won't go into extreme details, but essentially, modders found out for the 3DS that even the games that aren't on servers, you can log into this specific tool that they made, and they, even though you can't find them on the eShop, using this tool, it calls out all of the items from the Nintendo database, and you can download every single one of the games for free through their modding tools. And you're downloading it directly from Nintendo. You're taking it directly from their servers, meaning those games have still been on their servers. You just aren't allowed to buy them legally. You just aren't allowed to download them legally. And it's the same thing that happened with PT. The PT thing, when it was taken off the PlayStation Store, there is a software that you can install on your computer that basically acts as a hub that just lets you download PT directly through the PlayStation servers. Just instantly. You're done. You just download it through a hub, basically. But it's just connecting to the official PlayStation servers and downloading it. There's nothing stopping these companies from allowing you to do this sort of thing, other than the fact that they want control over everything. And it's really shitty.
Yep. And it is when Microsoft does it. Microsoft doesn't do it because everything is pretty much backwards compatible. But it is shitty when PlayStation does it and when Nintendo does it too. So, like I said, I wish that they had some way to not have gotten themselves into this position. But here we are.
I mean, it's always going to happen because companies see games as a business venture and they just kind of throw them away, and they want people to treat them as like art, and they like to pretend that they're like art or this, that, and the other when it's convenient to them and when it will get them awards and when it will get them more sales. But 10 years down the road, no company is being like, oh yeah, you can buy I don't know, fucking, what's a game that you can't buy anymore? I'm trying to think of one.
Anything on the GameCube?
No. What's that game that was on? No, I'm trying to not even go that far back. What's that game on PlayStation 3 that we did the book club, but with games? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I do. Shadow of the Damned.
Shadow of the Damned. You can't buy that on anything.
Yeah.
You just can only pay exorbitant prices on eBay and shit to play that game. You can't play it any other way. Yep. So it's just like, what the fuck is the point? Why should I go pay some scalper, or why should I go pay some collector a shit ton of money when the money's not even going to the original developers? What's the point of me actually paying for this product if you're not going to let me pay for it?
Yeah, and that one is a little bit of a different situation because it's like,
I think it's the music, right? Yeah, it's the music and the publishing, I believe.
Because that was published by EA, and that publishing deal ended, and so that's. But I mean, it's I totally understand exactly because I went through the same thing with the Jurassic Park game on the 360 last year, where it's well, I want this because I don't want to lose it, but I can't download it.
Yeah,
so I had to pay basically full new game prices for it.
Yeah,
for a game that I think I bought it for more than even originally sold for, to be honest.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's not. And granted, there are situations where it's like with the Scott Pilgrim game, you lose the licenses or whatever, and the game's got to get pulled off, and that sucks. And but those ones we can understand. But with these Nintendo ones, they're treating it more like the Disney Vault, where they're just all right, Metroid 3 Land's going back in the vault until we can find a way to release it again in 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's if we have, and it's another Nintendo thing that I always go back to, and it's very convenient too, is I don't think I would feel this way if Nintendo was ever hey, guess what? We're putting Nintendo 64 on the Switch, and here's our entire catalog for you to play right now.
It would be so easy for them to take some, because there's obviously, like you just talked about, licensing issues, with the Rare games, for instance. Microsoft owns Rare and that sort of deal. There's obviously a problem there, and that's something that has to be understood. But if they took their games that they could put on, even just their first party games from something like N64, and they're right, here's a service where you can pay and download unlimited N64 games. You can play them offline. You can do this, that, and the other, all on your Switch, and we'll add some over time. that sort of deal. As we add more, we might have to make the service a little bit more pricey, that sort of thing. Or if we get things like the rare games or whatever, we might have to make it a little bit more pricey. So you may go from like paying $20, a year to like $30 or $40 a year. And it's like, okay, that's a lot of money. But when you look at the amount of games that are on the N64, even just first-party Nintendo games, you're looking at a shit ton of really good games that you would normally have to either, well, let's just be honest, you'd have to emulate them, or you would have to pay an exorbitant amount for them, and then for the system, and then hope they work from some other nobody out there in the wild. There's the only two choices you have. But Nintendo has the ability to just be like, yeah, these are our first party games. Give us like $20 a month, and here's the whole catalog of these, and we'll add more as time goes on. And there you go. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that.
That's the way it should be. Because you know what? Honestly, I'm fucking sick of them, like, peppering them out like they did with the Wii U and like they did with the Wii. Like, I've already waited for you to.
But now they're not even like actual not physical. Now they're not even actual digital downloads. They're just streaming, which makes it even worse.
No, I think they're on the system. They're not streaming.
When you download the N64 games, don't they stream?
No,
they don't.
You can be offline and play them. Yeah, I mean, the
sure?
N64, 100%. You know how many like megabytes an N64 game is? Like, it's like nothing. They just update. That's why they update the app every time like new ones come out.
I see.
Yeah, like you can be offline, you can play them just like you can with the Super Nintendo and the NES games. Like, they just, like I said, it's such a minimal amount. Like, so they have 10 games on there, Brandon. That's like what, 25 megabytes? I'm being sarcastic, but you know what I mean. Like, it's like the amount of space that those ROMs take up is so trivial. It's like they're just added in there.
See, okay, yeah,
but I mean, it doesn't really change what you're saying. Like, there's absolutely no reason that it should be like that. Like, you have all these ROMs, you have the software to run the ROMs. Stick the fucking ROMs in the software. Stick them on for download on the Switch. If you're paying for it, you can play them. There's no reason that I need to wait like a year for fucking Majora's Mask to come out again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've already released it 3 times on your like releases and drip feed it out. Like, just put it fucking out. We all know it's coming. You already told us. So I don't know. Like, that frustrates me. And the same thing with like Super Nintendo. Like, did we really have to wait 3 years for fucking Earthbound? Like,
oh yeah.
How many times?
Okay, so I guess I'll go back to the licensing and policies and this, that, and the other for Earthbound. I will go to bat for this one, because if I remember correctly, there's a lot of Beatles references in Earthbound, and as such, Nintendo, they had a bit of a time every single time it comes to re-releasing Earthbound because of that. And the Beatles are notorious for being like, yeah, fuck you, you can't use anything with our name in it.
That's what they always say, but I've not seen anything that ever
actually point to that being a thing. No, I understand. But I also have seen other instances where the Beatles have been like, no. No. So, if that is actually the reason, and I could actually see that being the reason, but like, yeah, we don't have any confirmation that it is. It's just the assumed reason every single time.
Yeah, because people always say that. But, I've also seen times where, like, I don't remember what it was. Someone sued the Beatles sued someone for, like, using, I don't even remember, like, 5 seconds or something from one of their
it was
songs.
3. It was 3 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, and they ended up getting thrown out of court because they're like, that's fair use. Like, they didn't even do anything. And they sourced you or whatever. So it's like, I don't know. It's just frustrating every single time. And like I said, maybe there are situations like this where maybe there is some reason for it, but most of there's no reason for a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you said, they should all be out there. And if they want to do special ones, we're like, hey, guess what? We got, not Crash Bandicoot, Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie, yeah.
Make a big fucking deal about that. That is a big deal.
That is a huge deal.
But don't drip feed everything. just so you can make a big fucking announcement every month.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. I'm sure some people do, but nobody does actually care.
I don't think anyone does. I think people are really in the kind of mindset of you and me where it's just like, guys, just fucking do it. Just either do it or shut the fuck up. I think people are at that point already where it's just like, come on. What the fuck is your problem, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm at that point. I'm at that point where I'm just like, guys, just either do it or shut the fuck up, basically. And yeah. It's super annoying. It's just super annoying.
So yeah, so that is our long roundabout thoughts on 3DS and Wii U eShop. Maybe we'll see those games again. But like it's like if you look at the Wii U eShop, like the reason that's shutting down clearly is like they vacated all the software out of there anyways. Pretty much. Like I'm sure there's like there are some like downloads, like downloadable titles. But if we talk about like the big, like the major like console releases, like the big stuff's all over on the Switch anyways.
Okay, so let me actually, and this is where I think you underestimate a little bit, right? There are some things that just aren't on the Switch that are going to be gone. And some of those things are pretty major titles because they haven't made it to the Switch yet. I don't see them not making it to the Switch, period. In fact, I'm expecting an announcement for them sometime this year, probably.
The Zelda titles absolutely
are not there yet. And then on top of that, you also got to look at things like
Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yep.
That one, I think will eventually come. That's kind of on my like probably will be next year kind of title. But like, there's other stuff. It's like, okay, you don't need like Splatoon 1. Goodbye. You don't need like Mario
okay. 1. So I think that's not fair because we were just talking about preservation and being able to have games and everything. I mean, there is a Splatoon 1. How weird will it be 10, 15 years from now where Splatoon 2 and 3 exist, but 1 doesn't? It's really weird. That's really weird to think about.
In 15 years, Splatoon 2 and 3 won't exist together. I don't know who...
I understand what you're saying. But what I mean is, like, you look back on some games from the past, that sort of thing, in general, and you just think, like, oh, yeah, I remember the second game, or I remember the third game. Whatever happened to the first one? And you, like, look it up, and it's like, oh, yeah, you can't even...
Yeah, you can't play it anymore.
Yeah, and that happens with a lot of games, especially around the GameCube time, around the original Xbox time. And that's a problem. And I think to like just be like, yeah, I mean, whatever. I think it's really like, yeah, sure, it was the first time they released a game like that. But I think to write it off, especially when it has a very short, but it does have a single player aspect to it, that's going to be gone.
Yeah, and I was actually just about to make that point too. I was like, that's the tricky thing with that game because like the multiplayer is redundant because it is completely like replicated within Splatoon 2. Like, you don't need it anymore. But it is that short, albeit shitty, Splatoon 1 campaign.
Yeah,
would be like the big
just
like
not being able
there.
to actually experience that again is kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's those are the kind of things that you are gonna miss. And it's the same thing with like Mario Maker. It's like there's certain levels or whatever like the
and it's not gonna exist anymore.
Yeah, they're just gone. Like that's all there was. There's no coming back. Like it's unfortunate, and like I said, I just don't imagine a future where like with the big Switch stuff, like I said, those games are over. Like, but I mean, you're still gonna lose things like Nintendo Land. Like I don't think Nintendo's gonna put in the effort to adequately port that over to like a new like game.
Yeah, Nintendo Land's gone. But again, that was a thing. That was a launch title. That was something that you could experience at the time. And now you're not gonna be able to. And that's kind of weird. You know? You think back and I think about game launch titles. Like I think of things like Mario 64, for instance. It'd be like, oh yeah, we got Mario Sunshine now, so who gives a shit about Mario 64? And then it's written off. And then if something like that was gone because it was the first iteration of something and whatnot, that would be really fucking weird. And I think that's going to be a problem with a lot of things that appeared on the Wii U, didn't really get that much hype or anything, such as because of the console that was on, such as Mario Maker, such as Splatoon, those sort of things, such as Xenoblade Chronicles X. I'm hoping we get announcements for things like that. I don't think we will for Mario Maker because, it was integrated over to Mario Maker 2. But it's going to be really weird in the future when it's like, oh yeah, Mario Maker 2 existed. What happened to the first one? Well, that was on the Wii U. What? The Wii? No, the Wii U. What the fuck's the Wii U? It's just, it's gonna be like that console that is like the fabled console, like the Nintendo 64 DD is now.
Like,
you know what I mean,
kind of like we were just talking about, like Wii
Sports
Club. When I was like, well, that's no, I guess. But I was like, Wii Sports Club. Remember when they re-released them on the Wii U, and you're like, what?
I actually did not remember that.
And I did went back through and check, and you did have to you could, I think, either straight up buy the games is what it said, or you could rent the sports for with a pass for a certain amount of time.
That's so weird. Yeah, I never played that.
Yeah, I remember they put out a demo or introductory
Holy shit
thing, but yeah, nope.
I just looked it up. Oh my god, there is a physical copy of it.
But I think that one did include all the games. But it was even kind of what they were.
I don't know again if this is because of the announcement of the Wii U online shutting down, but it's $90 right now for a used copy of that game.
Nuts. Well, I don't think they made a ton of it either. It was not a big seller like the Wii Sports was.
What the fuck? Wii Sports is $101?
Oh, go sell all 10 copies you got.
Well, it's the Nintendo Selects one, I think.
Oh.
But I'm also going to look. That's so weird.
Yeah, and it's just, even if they do go back...
the normal one's $106. What the fuck? $94? What the fuck?
But in 20 years from now, they're never going to have a need to go back and be like, oh, let's release these legacy Wii U titles. They're just gone. Aside from maybe the eShop stuff.
These so expensive. Why are Wii games incredibly expensive?
I think the Wii is in a renaissance period right now, if I remember. Because the Wii kids are all grown up and they're buying the stuff that they grew up with now.
Wii Mario Kart. Holy shit. It's $90.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Why is this a thing?
And that game sold 1.5 billion copies too.
Yeah. And you can find them at fucking thrift shops for $15.
Apparently not anymore.
Don't seem like it. Although, anyway. Looking at this, I'm getting ideas. I'm like, I should go to thrift shops and buy those bundle Wiis that are $150 that come with Wii Sports, because damn, I've already almost made my money back with just that alone. You know what I mean?
I'm sure. Mm-hmm.
That's what's going through my head right now. Holy, even fucking shovelware titles are $50, $40, and I'm pretty sure that was $10 at some point. Or
when I left GameStop, Wii's were so cheap that I remember I bought one for less than $50.
Okay, I'm gonna just tell you this right now. So a Wii on Amazon renewed is $140 right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's almost as much as they were when they were new. Anyways, do you have anything else to say?
I would just look at these prices, look at the amount you would have to invest in something like this, and look at the fact that Nintendo is not doing anything with it, and I'm just why not just emulate it? Fuck them.
Or turn the shop into that thing they had in Diablo 3 when that launched, where you can just go sell shit for whatever price you want.
Oh god!
Try to let people resell their digital games on there and see how that goes.
Oh my god, that'd be nuts. I have so many. You know what I have digitally on my 3DS account?
What?
I have Snake Eater. You have any idea how rare that game is? It is insanely rare.
Yeah, I have a real copy of that one, actually.
Oh my god. Do you know how much a real copy is worth?
How much?
$130.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I have an assumption that it's because of the fact that it was taken off of every shop. Mm-hmm. Because of, you remember the footage last year they talked about it? The war footage was apparently they lost the rights to the war footage that they used, the real war that they had going and everything. And
Yes, I
yeah,
do
and then
remember
it
that.
had to be removed from all storefronts. So I'm guessing the physical copies of the game are worth a lot because, you know, you can actually buy them, which is insane to think.
I know. Anyways,
Yep.
you ready to wrap up?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Amazon, Google, or website game-crunch.com. Don't forget to leave us a review, share the podcast with a friend. We always appreciate it. And if you want to reach out, we are on Facebook, Twitter. You can send us email at gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon.
Hello, I've been streaming Elden Ring forever. It feels like if you would like to come watch me scream about Elden Ring while I get my ass absolutely destroyed late game, then yeah, Kagado Asuka, twitch.tv. That's where you want to see me. Oh my god, your dog did not like my song at
No, it
all.
did not. It did not. She's like, oh no, not
Get that
today,
shit
Satan.
out of here.
Anyways, with that said, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online on Clash of Penguin on Twitter or your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Game on.
That's what they did with Cuphead. That's what they did with Jurassic
I haven't watched
Park.
Cuphead yet. I really need to.
And the one thing I always liked about Cuphead was the art style. Like, I realized that's a game that would frustrate the fuck out of me, but I always been like, the art style is beautiful.
So here's the thing about Cuphead, right? And I guess you could put this on the podcast. I don't know if you're already recording. I assume you are. But Cuphead is a game that even though it's frustrating, it's easily something where it's very fair. It can be incredibly fair, but you just have to understand the mechanics. So when you first start playing, you're going to be like, what the fuck am I doing? How do I do this? What is going on? But like the more you play, the more you're like, oh, I understand what the game wants me to do now. And then like it just kind of clicks eventually and you're like, oh, okay. It's something similar to like Castlevania, like the original Castlevania games. They're very difficult at like, you know, a glance, but the more you put into the series, the more you put into the game, the more you're like, oh, I understand how to do this now. So you'll understand about like iframes and that sort of deal. Mm-hmm. And that's the same with like Cuphead. I mean, it's the same with Souls games, which I'll get to a little bit later on. Because oh boy, do I have to talk about one of those. So yeah, I guess I'm ready to start the podcast whenever you are. But yeah, about the like Cuphead thing. I guess you're right about the whole 10 episodes here, 10 episodes there. Like I mentioned before. But I guess I think of those as seasons. Even though
that's how Netflix puts them out.
Yeah, but exactly.
Like we were talking about, like whoever the Cuphead guy was like, yeah, they bought 32 episodes, and they're like, well, why are they only releasing 16? And they're like, I don't know. Just what they're doing.
So they do 16 now and 16 later to finish out the whole thing. I mean, yeah, it's smart because they don't have a gap in their stuff. Like then, if they do that, because there's enough for people who want to binge it and feel like, oh, that's a good healthy amount. But there's also enough for those who are like, I'll just watch this over time, and then by the time that over time is done, the next batch comes out and they're hooked again. So yeah, that's the way I see it, at least.
Yeah, because they'll dump them, but it gives them reason to like stay. So because it's like, like, oh, I'm just gonna watch it and cancel. Well, no, now you can't because it's
Yeah.
you still have to come back in a couple weeks for the rest.